So I'm Roger Curlin, this is Miguel Miranda. We're now with episode 5 of our series for the hospitality industry. And this is really going to talk about marketing, and it's kind of a two-phase, the strategy now, today, that you should be doing, and then the strategy for reopening. So it's kind of a double focus that Miguel and I will be talking about today. So marketing's never really been a favorite topic of hospitality, or many small businesses for that matter. In the best of times, it's a very, very difficult challenge to put together that proper strategy and make sure the ROI is there, the effectiveness is there. But right now, it's so critical that you have that in place. The classic phrase, if you fail to plan to fail. So you've got to have a strategy to attack this, everyone who's watching this episode. When designing the strategy, there's those pieces that, as I said, you should launch now, then at your reopening phase, and then the long term. So the long term is going to be episode 6. We're going to talk about that, but for this episode, the now and the reopening. For the now, you must be in front of your audience now and gearing them up for when you can reopen to the dine-in experience. So if you're already doing delivery and to-go, awesome. You've got that message out there. You're now going to engage them with the extra message that dine-in is coming, but you have to be in front of people right now. So Miguel, I'm going to toss it over to you. You've got great perspective on this, great ideas on this. So start to talk us through what's important about the now.
Well, as we said in prior episodes, that the number one thing you should be doing at this point across the board with any stakeholder is communicate, communicate, communicate. And when you're done doing that, communicate some more. And so whatever avenue you've had in the past to communicate with your audience, I would encourage you to double or triple up on it right now and be in a constant conversation with them. The old adage in the past was that you posted one time a day or every other day, and you didn't want to be too much. You maybe sent too many newsletters, and if you had text to message, you would really hold back on it. And you still want to be looking at that and how much you're doing it. But what we've found out is more people are on social media now than they have ever been before. A lot of people don't have a lot more downtime than they ever had before. And so what's happening with the feeds are what you're posting is going through a whole lot faster. And so if you post it only once a day or once every other day, odds are majority of your audience is not going to see it. The other piece of it is the algorithms for Facebook and Instagram for businesses have been changed to really almost suppress your natural or organic posts. Really what they want you to do is to post more, to pay them to post, that way people will see it, even the people that are currently following you. So odds are you've got to really be thinking about what is it you're communicating, how often you're going to communicate. And so what's going to get higher interaction, in other words, what Facebook and Instagram is going to reward you and let you actually naturally show more, are posts that are being engaged with. So back in the day, we were posting a picture of our food, our special, or hey, we're open for delivery, come check us out, and maybe get 5, 10, 20 likes. That's not great engagement for the algorithms to say this is something we should be pushing a lot more out there. And so what should you be posting, what should you be communicating? It's really varied messages throughout your time period of what's happening in your business. And that's the key. You're showing some vulnerability. You're a human being. You're not some big corporate mass sitting back there. You're an individual, you're a community leader, you're part of the community, you give back, all these things I've done in the past. They said, hey, this is me, this is my business. So one thing I started seeing early on, the beginning of the shutdown or the crisis, was a lot of owners going on there saying, hey, this is what's happening, this is what we're trying to do. And it was great, but I only saw one post of that. Yeah. I think they need to continue the conversation. Guys like Andy over at Urban Barbecue, not only what he's doing in respects to what he's helping out, but it's his image, his messaging over and over again, along with his teams, saying, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what was happening in our business. And we saw, looking at those posts, they're getting a lot more traction, a lot more shares, and a lot more likes, which means that his posts are naturally being shown more often than having to pay for it. So that's one piece. I'm also seeing a lot of owners actually showing their cooking channel almost. I mean, think about it. Back in the day, you wanted the Food Network, you got to get a show. Well, Instagram can now be your cooking show, either through YouTube videos or whatnot. So are you showcasing the items that can't be made right now because you're closed? but your customers are seeing it. Trust me, odds are a majority of them cannot replicate it. You're not giving away the secret sauce because they can't cook. But nonetheless, you're showing them how to make the perfect tortilla. What is the secret of for the seasoning for a taco, or how to properly top your pizza. Those kind of things is engaging, and people are seeing what's happening. And then the final piece I'll say in respect to what you should be looking at right now is what are the avenues that you use for communicating to the people out there.
Right.
For a lot of us in the past, we didn't do much of it because it was kind of foreign to us. We were also kind of busy. We weren't in partnerships with other organizations that were already out there doing some of these communications. And they've kind of just stuck on to the same old, like, hey, I have this little ad and this little newspaper, and that should be sufficient. So right now, I would say for now is start looking at what other avenues or partnerships you need to be having to start sharing your message and exploring what that's probably going to look like. And so it may be something you do on your own, or you may be hiring a firm like Big C to work with you and saying, hey, how do I properly get my message out there?
Yeah, and it's both paid and unpaid. There's a blend of that. And I think the messaging is so important to what you're talking about, Miguel. So the messaging right now should be, can't wait to see you. We miss you. We can't wait to serve you. I also think putting the stories and the messages about what you've been doing, if there have been some great things that you've been doing in the community, post those stories. And as Miguel has said, and I agree, it's not just about showing food, it's about showing people, it's about showing action, it's about showing activity. And then it's not just Facebook and Instagram. Look at all your social media influencers, your digital social media influencers. Here in St. Petersburg, we have I Love the Berg, we have That's So Tampa, St. Petersburg Foodies, I Love St. Pete, Tampa Bay is Awesome, Catalyst, KSPL, LS1, I could keep going. So engage with those platforms. They love stories. They're looking for content. Give them content, give them stories, do some things that can help fill that up. Some destinations right now are not doing anything. And they're going to have to, open up for dine-in, delivery, to go, whatever that mix makes. You need to start talking to people about what you're going to be providing so they can start getting ready. Because it's about now what you're talking about, but you're also kind of forecasting what's going to be available. We don't know the dates that we're going to be allowed to reopen. And our mayor has made it very clear that he will dictate when we reopen in the city of St. Petersburg and then Pinellas County, obviously in other cities, etc. So I don't suggest doing anything in traditional media right now because we don't know when we can promote being reopened. So my position is just stay with digital assets right now. I've said it in previous episodes. I'm going to say it again. The consumer is looking for 4 things. They're looking for safety, attentiveness, value, and an experience. So make sure you're telling those stories so the consumer says, oh, I want to go there. They understand me. They understand what's going to make me feel comfortable and happy to come out. And positivity is the key to all messaging. I love humor. Folks that know me know I love a good joke. I love to laugh. But be very careful with humor during this crisis in how you use that as you engage with your customer. But positivity can never go wrong. So always lean into that. For the reopen phase, so we know there's going to be a reopening at some point. You want to begin ramping up activity to be able to do that from the standpoint of preparations internally. But from a marketing standpoint, you've got to be teasing that stuff out. So when day one, you're allowed to reopen, you can be there and you're going to have people waiting to come in because you've taught them about what to expect. So I really feel like sending the message out about what they can expect is really important. I've seen multiple places, and I'm huge fans, and some of them are aligned with our company already, and I see some that aren't, but that are already planning that grand reopening party. And so I love seeing that because it's almost like an anniversary party, reopening party, when we can get back together again, even if it's socially distanced, and share a story and share a drink and share some food, because people want that. You can feel that in people. And so I think that talking about that reopening day and being positive about that and excited about that, I think that's a good thing. And I view this as a horse race, right? So when we're allowed to reopen as businesses, you want to make sure your horse gets out of the gate cleanly and on the time when it can start. You don't want to be behind the ball, so you've got to market that stuff ahead of time. I don't expect we'll get too much advance notice, although I'm hopeful that we do get some advance notice because it takes time to order the food, to get the staff, all of those different types of things. But I think you can start talking about the plan for what you look like when you reopen, because that doesn't have a date attached to it. So definitely start getting that messaging out. Miguel, what are some thoughts you have about that reopening message?
Well, so obviously we don't know when it's going to happen, and we don't know what it's going to look like, but I think you need to take a look at it from 2 points of view. There's going to be an initial pop that people say, hey, I've been cooped up for a long time, I want to get out, I want to have fun, I want to enjoy some of my favorite places, and I'm ready to go out. And then reality sets in. And so you're going to get a huge pop, and then you're going to drop back down. And from a marketing and advertising point of view, generally you advertise a special event, that'd be the grand opening,
right,
but you market a business in general. I think you need to look at it both things separately and making sure that if you're going to do a welcome back party or something big, yes, you're advertising for that specific day, but look at your marketing overall and say, how are you going to capture people beyond that point and stay along with them? And so if you haven't looked already at any sort of loyalty programs, that once that big pop comes in, you want to be able to grasp as much of it as you can and continue having that conversation with them afterwards. If you haven't figured out, once that big pop comes in, how to get them to follow you on social media, right, whatever method of communication you're going to be using, you want to capture them. Because after that, it's really a pointless thing. I always tell people, it's some of these services out there, they're great marketing. They'll give you people for the first time, but then you're paying for it again and again and again once they become your fans. And so you don't want to do the same thing here, where you're paying a lot of money or time and energy. By the way, it's not money's dollar-wise not the way you pay for things. Time and energy is the other way you pay for things, for something big, and you haven't thought about how you're going to capture them afterwards. I think strongly that people are going to want to go out the moment they can, and they're going to, as they call it, bum rush these restaurants, almost to a point that we won't be able to handle it. Either we're going to run out of product, or our staff won't be, ready to handle this much volume because they've been rusty, have been not able to work, and they're probably going to forgive us a little bit. So that's going to happen. But I think after a week or two of that, it's going to drop down to a more natural. So think about like a grand opening of a restaurant. Big push, and then after a while, after a few weeks, months, it starts to settle down to the real numbers. And those of us that didn't do a great job of figuring out how to communicate with those individuals from a long term are going to struggle from that point of view. So that's one thing I'll take a look at. One thing I did want to add on from a social media point of view, and I'd never thought in a million years I would be involved, but TikTok, which it was meant for high schoolers. If you get on there right now, you start watching, it's actually a lot of millennials are jumping into it. Millennials, by the way, are not young people. Most millennials are 30 years old. They have family, they have kids, but they also have disposable income, are getting on there. One thing about TikTok is really impressive, I think it's really unique, and I'm starting to see businesses jump on there, and here's why it's important to get on there. One, your audience is on that platform. Yep. Plain and simple. So if you run a bar, guess where your audience is at? They're not on Facebook. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, maybe Snapchat. But one of the things I like about TikTok is that unlike the other social medias, which actually make you pay as a business to be seen, TikTok actually rewards you by they want to see as much product go out there. And so what makes that your post more viral, let's call it that way, to give you shared a lot more, is when people are liking it and you're seeing it's creative. But there's really no paywall. So really the cost is going to be for you to just produce it. Get your staff involved. Right. I mean, I'm 47, 48, I'm not sure how old I am now, but maybe I can't create something unique, exciting, but I bet you what, if I took my 20-year-olds that work for me and say, hey, let's create our own TikTok channel, and let's you guys be creative, and how should we do it? First of all, get your team engaged in the process. And secondly, it's speaking to the audience that you're trying to attract, and odds are it's another great way to get your messaging out there. By the way, pre-crisis, this wouldn't have happened because most of your guest base wouldn't have been on TikTok. Most of them probably were not old enough to drink. But it's all changed because of the shutdown. And so really going to take a look at it. Which avenue am I marketing through once I open and keep going from there, that it's going to make sense so that it's the people who actually eat at my place, that's what they're actually looking at.
Yeah, and I love that point. And the concept is we want to be in front of the eyes and in front of the ears of the customer that we need in our restaurant, our bar, our hospitality location. And it's not about selling to everybody. It's about looking for that audience that we know resonates with us and getting in front of them, whether it's TikTok, whether it's an article in one of the affiliates I talked about. But we have to get that message out there, and we have to be front and center now, because when the horse race begins, This is that second critical phase to survival, because there is going to be a diminished appetite for eating out on what we feel is a longer run, although that initial pop may happen. One other thing that I wanted to talk about is, if you feel like you're not going to be ready on day one to do that welcoming party, it's okay. Have it a couple of weeks after that, have a date for it, just make it natural. But I think there is benefit to celebrating being open again as a community and as an individual business. I do want to say, if you're doing a party, and I've seen, not our partners, but I've seen some people that are staging this party, I feel they're a bit off center on this. You want to keep the focus on the customer, the heroes in the local community, and make time for observing folks that did pass away or that really damaged either business-wise, et cetera, because it has had an effect on the community. So I just always say, if you do a party, make sure you've got those three things as a part of that communication and of that message. I also am a firm believer, and this is, marketing is not just an ad. And so we're a really broad umbrella we talk about. I want you to build a partner list of allied businesses now that can help spread your message when you reopen. Again, this is one of the things should have been done already, but if you haven't done it before, do it now, right? So that small shopping plaza, there's a salon and there's a nail place and there's a vitamin place. Be communicating with all these businesses, because when you come back, you're going to help those other businesses. Retail's really suffering hard because there's such a great synergy between shopping, eating, drinking, etc., and that's been kind of shattered right now. So look at your allied businesses and make sure they can share your message and you can share their message as well digitally. Because to Miguel's point, absolutely the algorithms are there. When you start commenting and then a comment comes back and then that gets shared, all of that interaction lifts you up in the eyes of for unpaid, and that's the goal.
Well, I think that, we know you're going to be in a financial crunch. We are. And so it's kind of tough to say, hey, these are things you should be doing, and spend money here, spend money there. You're like, well, where's this money coming from if I don't have money to spend on getting restarted? So how do we do it? And so I will say that I've never been a big proponent of spending a lot of money on marketing unless you can measure the return on investment. And a lot of times you can't. And not because it's a fault of the agency or even the ad itself, is you haven't done internal things to capture people to understand whether they're new or not new. So first and foremost, when you train your staff to ask people, first time, not first time here, and what brought you here, and track it. In other words, when they turn in their check out in the day, track it. Or if you're a cashier, a counter service, take a little piece of paper, tape it to the thing, and they're like, hey, welcome to my restaurant. What's your name, Roger? First time here? No, yeah, first time. Mark it. Fine. You're tracking something to see if it works. You want to see if your ads are working, your marketing is working. But that being said, as you start moving through this whole entire process, the best advertising that's going to be the cheapest for you is word of mouth. But word of mouth is not just you telling your neighbor. It's you telling someone else. In which way? In social media. It's the beauty of what we have now. It's not newspapers, it's not billboards, it's not those things, and most of us can't afford that. But we can't afford someone on social media, whichever platform it is, telling someone else, I had either A, an amazing experience, or B, I had an amazing engagement on social media with that individual. Right. And so I've seen the bingo boards where, come in and, if you get certain items, you can qualify to win a $250 gift certificate on this bingo board. So whoever gets bingo first, or if everybody gets it, you eventually get out of that drawing. For $250, which is cheaper than probably most ads you could ever put out there, you've got people to come in multiple times. They have to, of course, bring in their receipts, but it engages them. It's unique and different. What are you doing for the local community? I see a lot of people who are actually bringing food for first responders. That's great, but here's what's happening. A lot of people are doing it. So what was unique at first is now becoming wallpaper. Everybody's like, it's just someone else doing it. Right. The new thing I'm seeing now is while they're shut down, is they're doing movies in the parking lot. And so not everybody can do that, but they're trying to do different things that's going to be unique to that individual, to say, hey, we're different. And so whether it's social media or it's a newspaper ad or whatever it is, be mindful. You cannot be like wallpaper. You cannot do what everyone else is doing. Engage your staff and ask them, hey, what should be something unique or different we should be advertising ourselves as? It's not up to you by yourself to figure it out. Or it's not even up to you and your ad agency. Get your staff involved. Get your customer base involved. they'll be happy to tell you what unique things you could be doing, and that's what's going to be shared across more often than not.
Yeah, and I love that concept, Miguel, and what I always talk about is stories. Storytelling is so critical. It's the oldest form of communication, and it's so important in marketing. So make sure you're telling stories. You're not just posting a picture, you're not just posting a saying, you're telling a story. You're drawing the viewer in to your story, and make sure it's on brand, right? Make sure it reflects your brand. Other ideas and tips, signage at your location. Make sure people know when they're coming in for delivery and to go right now, hey, we're reopening on X date, or when the date it comes, we're ready. We're here for you on day one, whatever that may be. So signage is really critical, internally and externally, right? A lot of people may drive by your place, have a big sign. Day one that reopen happens, we're reopened for you. You do want to make sure your reopening hours are posted across there's about 12 different places you have to make sure, so no fun. But again, the day that you're allowed to reopen for dine-in, make sure that Google and Facebook and Yelp and TripAdvisor and blah, blah, all of them have your proper hours and times, because people are going to be using those to find out when they can come and where they can come.
Which I would add, if they're not currently update, means if you're closed, all those Yelp, Google, everything else should say you are closed. If they are still showing you as open right now, what the unintended consequences, people say, oh, well, we can't trust those hours. And so they're looking for an update showing that it's been changed. So make sure your hours are correct, whatever they currently are right now. And so when you update it through all different platforms, that shows up on there immediately.
That's an absolutely great point. And I suggest having a document that has every place that you have hours posted and how to reset that. Just as an operating business, you should have that, so we don't have to hunt all over the place for it.
By the way, there's not at another cost, but there are services online that actually will automatically post your menu as well as update your hours to all the platforms, where you only log in one spot, you update it there, and then take care of the rest. Again, the key here is automation as well as being yourself more productive and efficient. Odds are you're going to make more mistakes if you're the ones having to track everything. You're going to forget certain things or not get to it. And so if you financially can afford it, outsource some of these smaller things that will help you out to manage and keep it.
And guess who's going to be some of your best clients when you reopen for dine-in is going to be your takeout and to-go folks. So have your flyer already designed for the reopen date. We don't know what that date is, but you can design everything else and plug that date in when it comes. The second you know that date, you need to have that flyer printed. My apologies. Mom's calling me, right? So that's going to be really important to have that printed and ready to go, and stick those inside all of your to-go and delivery bags, saying we're going to be open on July 1st for business. Guys, come in, enjoy our dine-in services. So you can design that stuff right now. If you anticipate that you may not have real great attendance that first week when you're open, as Miguel said, a lot of people are going to try to bring a lot of people, and these are the nationals, and everyone's going to be hunting for those first responders from a dining standpoint. Maybe think about aligning with an organization or a charity where they can actually bring in family groups, friend groups in a safe environment, extend social distancing, etc. But maybe you align with them and say, hey, listen, this is going to be the place for you. We're not inviting the general public in. First day we're open, it's all going to be for this organization to bring friends and family together. How cool would that be? You're guaranteed to bring an audience. You're gonna send a message to that group that they're important to you. So an idea like that would be great. You more than likely, as we've talked in other episodes, will have tweaked your menu. Don't lose your what I call identity dishes. Identity dishes. Do not lose those. Encourage promoting these dishes to your and introduce fans to the new things, the new exciting stuff that you have. So you've got your traditional, your comfort dishes, but hey, we've also got this now. So you want to talk about the new as well as the comfort. As with the now strategy, and I continue to harp on it, the consumer is looking to dive back into dining is going to be looking for that safety, attentiveness, value, and experience. So make sure you're providing that messaging in everything that you're doing.
There's some companies, some of you already started renovating your restaurants. You've taken this opportunity to do the things you've been wanting to do.
Right.
And by the way, not everyone who's shut down is in a bad financial situation.
Right.
Some people have had money, they've saved up, they were prepared for this.
Right.
And so the renovations that need to be done or finally get done, because you're shut down, you're not losing revenue for being shut down.
Right.
And so share that. Talk about it, time lapse some of these videos if you could,
right.
if you haven't done it already, of watching your dining room being transformed or new booths being put in place. And again, especially if you're doing new safety things, put it in place so people see it and they see, okay, that's cool. I can't wait to get into that new environment or play into that new area that's being redone. So
I love that. I love that. And Miguel, you and I are both fans. Do not try to compete solely on price across the board. You guys aren't McDonald's. You do want to have some value priced items, because there are going to be people that lost their businesses, lost their jobs, or have uncertainty coming. So you do want to have some value priced items on your menu. But that doesn't mean when you have a value priced item that it's not a profitable item. Right? French fries are a pretty profitable item, even if you're charging $1 for them. Right. And also potentially think of a loss leader that brings in new traffic and excitement for you, maybe that first week or a particular day of the week. Right now, I believe stickiness is more important than ever as you attempt to rebuild a customer base. So the stickiness is, you don't want to walk into the restaurant and you're the only people in that restaurant for the whole dining service, right? So ways that you can create stickiness are going to be important. I love Miguel's thought about the bingo card. Maybe it's a contest. Worst hair with before and after was my idea. So you can have that if you want. Get your audience, get your fans, get your followers involved, because this is the longest I've had it. And
I can't wait for that barbershop to open up so I can get my haircut.
So that's a fun way to do things. I want to, if you're comfortable, I want you to just talk about kind of reservation times before and after, and where that could maybe be a valuable tool right now.
Well, so here's the one thing. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know how much traffic is going to come hit your way. You also don't know what your team can or can't handle. The ability to be successful in executing, it generally is based off repetition and habits being formed. And we're currently rusty. You could say that, hey, it's like riding a bike. You would, except until you go a brand new restaurant opening. Even when you bring people from other restaurants of yours into that one new place, it's just we're not used to it. And so, as I've said over and over again in the past, your boss is the brand. Whatever your brand identity, you've got to protect it. Do not cross over it. Do not hurt it for one day or 1 week's worth of sales, no matter how much you really need it. Right. I mean, really, it's something you've got to protect it, regardless of money. And so, whether it's reservations, here's my thing with the reservation. It's a promise to someone else that you're going to deliver on that time period. So it could help you if you want to start building your book up and saying, hey, this was going to be it. And granted, we don't know when we start taking them.
Right,
so we don't want to say, hey, we're ready to take it. All the people are asking and whatnot. So can it fill your dining room up? Of course it could. But if you don't think you can handle it, then back off a little bit and make sure you don't overpromise saying we can handle this many more reservations. What we don't want happening is a day of when you open up, you've got all these reservations, and all of a sudden your kitchen can't keep up, your service team's not quite there, or maybe not everyone showed up because you thought you were going to have this many servers and they didn't all show up for it, and then you show up and we can't take care of you. Yeah. And one thing is, if you have to wait 15 minutes, if you have to wait 30, 40 minutes, it's now changed what should have been a positive experience into a negative experience. So I kind of go back and forth because reservations ties you into a time that you're going to be taking care of somebody, and it doesn't always work out for you.
If you can do it well, I think it's a great asset, especially in the beginning, to make sure you control the number of guests that come in, their experience, and you get a proper rotation. So this has been a great session. Our next episode is going to deal with marketing, but for the long-term marketing focus after we've made it out of the gate. So again, from Miguel and Roger, thank you for today, and we'll see you on the next episode.